This is a re-recording of Canvas accessibility due to technical issues that occurred with the original recording. A couple of things we want to be sure to cover in today's presentation are to talk about the user experience from both the learner perspective, but also just the human experience. And then what we'll be doing is putting all together the concepts that we've learned throughout the entire workshop series together in Canvas courses, specifically talking about navigation, headings, alternative text, color contrast, lists, the equation editor in Canvas. We'll briefly mention the built-in Canvas accessibility checker and ensure to show you the certificate. So an interesting quote, would you build a bridge that only a specific type of car can use? The answer is absolutely not. And in our courses, we do not want to build courses that will only work for a specific type of learner. As we've mentioned in previous workshops, there's a variety of diversity in today's classroom. We have students who have visible disabilities, students who are parents, international students, students who are non-traditional and perhaps juggling quite a bit of their professional life, their academic life, and their family life. We have students who have temporary disabilities, students who rely on mobile devices, first-generation students, students who commute in a significant capacity or have some type of lifestyle where they need to have multiple modalities, and students who have invisible disabilities. But let's also just consider the human experience, particularly if we think about video accessibility. For example, some videos may need captions or would benefit from captions because of specialized vocabulary. Perhaps that there's maybe an accent that is harder for a learner to understand from their teacher or instructor. Forgotten headphones can remove the opportunity for a student to listen to a video if they're in some type of environment that is very loud or needs to be very quiet. There are some students that have a shared sleeping space where they really can't be in that room, but perhaps they don't have any other option to study in any other part of the house. We have fast speakers who record videos. We have poor audio quality. So captions, for example, would help with all of these very real human experiences. But we also need to consider other things like poor lighting or students who are eating and working at the same space, especially in pertinence to our college students. We have students who have limited monitors or multiple monitors. What you can do in your learning situation if you have 3 monitors is very different compared to if you're constrained to a mobile device. Bandwidth connectivity or the digital divide is definitely a concern. Operating system preference, how you do things on an Apple versus a Windows environment, can be a little bit different. And are we thinking about those differences when we're designing our curriculum? And then also fatigue. It does not need to be stated any further, but we are all fatigued for very good and multiple reasons. So to summarize, accessibility is essential for some, but useful for all. So let's talk a little bit about how can we apply these principles into our actual courses. So first we need to ensure consistent navigation. A couple of recommendations are to use your school's template if you have a Canvas course template available. If you don't have one available, we ask you to consider meeting with your department or the appropriate individuals to discuss an internal standard. Consistent navigation is really important to ensure easy access to the most valuable things in the course, such as the syllabus, quizzes, exam dates, help information, how to contact the teacher, the instructor, and so on. We also recommend that you create a landing page, limit items in the course menu, and use modules. And we have an example from the University of Minnesota's IT department that talks about examples for these 3 things. Here's an example from the University of Minnesota's Information Technology webpage about designing an accessible and usable course site in Canvas. So I like this site because it's highlighting a couple of things such as creating a landing page, limiting items in a course menu, using the module layout to arrange course materials and structure content pages. Within each of these sections, they have some more explanation and an example of how to do that or what it should look like. We encourage you to explore that link at your own leisure, and it's at the bottom of the screen here, it.umn.edu/services-technology/good/practices/canvas-design-accessible-usable-course. Here's an example from Canterbury Christ Church University, where they really tried to highlight the variety and the frustration that students may experience when navigating their courses. Now, this course menu is actually using Blackboard Learn, but its applicability, I think, is very relatable. So on the screen, there's 5 different screenshots of real course menus located in real courses. Overall, the question is, where do I submit assignments? And then within each example, there's a border highlighting where a student may assume that is the place to submit assignment. So in example 1, there's an assignments option and e-submissions. In example 2, there's an assignments option and turn it in. Example 3, the menu says assignments e-submission points. Example 4 has both assignments and e-submission. But that menu is quite long, and so those 2 options are very spread apart. And then example 5, there's a program assistance option. So this is really communicating that there is inconsistency and a very wide range of what students may encounter when trying to complete their curriculum. One last resource that may be of interest is from the University of Oklahoma. They actually also have a website talking about easier course navigation, providing some examples and additional text. That URL is www.canvas.online/canvas-teaching-tips/easier-course-navigation. So what are 5 things that you can start doing right away to help make your Canvas courses more usable and accessible? First is to add headings. Second, use lists properly. 3, to add alternative text to images. 4, check color contrast. 5, use built-in equation editor. There is a sample Canvas page about dogs that I'll be using to demonstrate each of these 5 items. I'm currently in my sample Canvas page about dogs. On this page, I have a couple of images. I have the steps of what I'm going to demonstrate to make Canvas more accessible. I have some sections like popular dog breeds, diet, an easy calculation of dog's age. I have an equation and also an additional image. So the first thing I want to do is add headings. I can tell visually that there are certain sections on this page, but if I didn't have sight, I actually would not be able to quickly decipher what are the main sections. This is where headings come into play. If there are headings on a Canvas page, then students who do not have sight and use assistive technology can quickly skip through the content on the page to understand the main sections. Headings are also very valuable for us sighted people because we can more quickly decipher the different chunks of text. So I'll go into my edit view. I am a Canvas instructor, and in that edit view, I can see at the very top the text editor. And the first thing I want to do is identify my main sections and make them headings. Something about Canvas is you always want to start with a heading 1. However, in Canvas, heading 1 is already being used for the Canvas page or other aspects in Canvas. So what we need to focus on is use heading 2 as our starting place. So what I'll do is I'll put my mouse, or I can select the whole row of text that I need to make a heading. In this case, I'm highlighting steps to make Canvas more accessible. And then on my text editor, I'm going to go under the paragraph option, and I select that option. It will give me a drop down for header 2, header 3, and header 4. So if I select header 2, that is going to make the text both bigger, more bold, and it will make it a heading 2, which is necessary. Continuing on, my next section is most popular dog breeds. Now, when you come to a next section, you need to ask yourself, is that section a child or essentially a subsection of the previous section? If it is, we need to go to the next heading level, in this case, heading level 3. However, steps to make Canvas more accessible and most popular dog breeds, they don't build off of each other. So most popular dog breeds of 2019 should also be a header 2. Next, I have diet. Diet is also a standalone or a separate topic, so that can be a heading 2. The easy calculation of a dog's age, that can also be a heading 2. And now my last section is how old is my 5-year-old corgi? Now this is a section that is trying to support how to calculate a dog's age and dog years and human years and so on. So in this case, I'm going to make this a heading 3. Now, visually, there's not much distinction, although the text is a little bit smaller for a heading 3 versus a heading 2. Now, you can't change the color, the size, the font in Canvas. You can do it in Microsoft Word and in Google Docs. But in Canvas, it is still creating the appropriate nesting by saying that how old is my 5-year-old corgi is a subsection of the easy calculation of a dog's age. I'll go ahead and save my changes. All right, next step is to use lists properly. So I do see one list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I see another list that actually just is lines of text, and that's under my most popular dog breeds of 2019. So let me go back into edit mode and scroll to most popular dog breeds of 2019. And what you'll want to do is highlight all the text that should be in a list. Now there are 2 types of lists. There are bulleted lists and numbered lists in Canvas. These also are referred to as unordered lists, meaning that the order doesn't necessarily matter, and then ordered lists where it is more sequential, as in 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in this case, my dog breeds, I could probably use either. It depends if I really want to communicate which dog breed is the most popular, or if I just want to name the top 5 and the order doesn't necessarily matter. In this case, I'll just choose bulleted list for variety, and it's going to take all of the highlighted text and add a bullet in front of each of them. Using spaces and enters do not create lists. These lists are very important for them to be read correctly for those who use assistive technology. The next thing to consider is adding alt text to images. So adding alt text to images in Canvas is fairly straightforward. I'll select my first image just to see if there is alternative text. So I've highlighted my first image, and then I'm going to choose the image icon on the text editor. In this case, I have alt text already that says image showing 6 different breeds of dogs. So that is not the image missing alternative text. So I'm going to cancel out of this and look for my next image. My next image is a photo at the very bottom of a baby corgi, and I'll do the same thing by selecting embed image, and my alt text field is actually blank. So this is where I need to type in photo of baby corgi with head tilted and tongue sticking out. It's important to describe images as simple and as concise as possible, but also share the important information. Let me choose update. So now I have alt text in an image, which is perfect. Students who are blind and who use screen readers do know that images exist on a page. If there is not alt text, they will have no idea what that image is of, which is really unfair and discriminatory if they don't know what the image is communicating. Now, some images are more decorative in nature, and we talked more about image descriptions in a previous workshop recording. All right, so step number 4 is to check the color contrast. So I'm going to pull up the color contrast analyzer. This was a free tool that's covered in more detail and is a separate recap video in module 4. And it's going to allow me to choose 2 colors, the foreground or the text color, and then the background color, and see if that color combination will be accessible. So I'm going to select the eyedrop icon in the analyzer, and then I'm going to hover over this red color, which is the red color of item number 4. And it's my red color up against a white background. And actually, when I look down at the results towards the bottom of the analyzer, it is failing a couple of success criteria. So this is where I would want to select a different color in Canvas to ensure the greatest level of usability. So let me highlight item number 4, go to the text dropdown, and let me choose this blue color that's in the 2nd row and in the 6th column. So let's go ahead and check that. And that blue up against a white background is passing all of the success criteria. So the blue default in Canvas is more accessible than the red default. And red notoriously has color accessibility issues for those who are colorblind. So I would recommend staying away from red as much as possible. The last thing to discuss is how to use the equation editor to make accessible equations. First, let me scroll down to the section that talks about calculating a dog's age and using the formula of 1 dog year multiplying it by 7, we can figure out how old the 5-year-old corgi is in human years. So what I'll do is go up to the top and look for the Insert Math Equation option in the text editor. And I can just simply type the numbers and the symbols. So 5 times 7 equals 35. And then select Insert and save the page. And that equation is accessible to a screen reader. So let me pull up an example of a screen reader and navigate to this particular equation. As soon as I initiate the screen reader, though, it's going to start talking at me because it's going to communicate navigational elements as well as the actual text. So here we go.
Loading NVDA. Please wait. Use show OK button. Sample canvas page about dogs. Clickable banner. Skip to content link. Clickable toggle. Heading level. Graphic image showing 6 different breeds of dogs. Heading level 2 steps. 5 views built-in equation editor. Out of list heading level. HTTPS. Bullet French Bulldog. Bullet Bulldog. Out of list heading Heading level 2 the easy calculation. The easy way to calculate it based on an assumption that dogs. Heading level 3 unlabeled graphic to get missing image descriptions. 5 times 7 equals 35.
So what I would like to do now is give you an example of how some more complex equations can be read by a screen reader if they're entered using Canvas's math editor. So I've gone to a page that I've already prepared with some more complex equations. So let's look at the distant equation and how that's read.
Heading level 2 distance equation. D equals the square root of open paren x sub 1 minus x sub 2 close paren squared plus open paren y sub 1 minus y sub 2 close paren squared.
So whenever possible, please try to use the math equation editor in Canvas to communicate your mathematical notations and equations and expressions as opposed to handwriting. Handwriting math presents several accessibility issues that would be easier to avoid if at all possible. One other thing we did want to mention is the Canvas Accessibility Checker. This is free and built in and is designed to look at certain accessibility issues in a Canvas page. That is going to be a person icon that's going to be located on the far right hand side. I see a scroll bar for my text editor, and when I scroll all the way to the right, there's a little circle with a person and the help text says check accessibility. That is going to launch the accessibility checker, allowing you to also capture a couple of issues. More information about the Canvas Accessibility Checker is available on the Canvas community site. And as a bonus, there's a way to check your course for broken links. So there is also more information and documentation on the Canvas community site that allows you to verify that all external links throughout your course are actually valid. So as a wrap up, we have all of our past webinars, workshops, courses available to you through the Utah Accessibility Canvas course. The bit.ly or the short link to get to that course is bit.ly// capital U, capital E, capital N, capital A, lowercase c, c, e, s, s. For example, we've had workshops such as Foundations for Higher Education, Foundations for K-12 Teachers, Accessibility in Microsoft Word and Google Docs, Accessibility in Microsoft PowerPoint and Google Slides, accessible PDF files, captioning your videos, and then this course. And with that, if you do not have a certificate and are looking to receive one, you're welcome to take a screenshot of this or email one of the instructors for a PDF version of the certificate indicating that you have completed the 1-hour instruction of Canvas accessibility. Much thanks to Reimagine Teaching for providing these opportunities.